Hi everyone and welcome to Project 31 for 2023, where I watch 31 horror films in the 31 days of October, and I give you my review for each and every single one of them. Today, October 4th, I will review the movie The Fog.
Well, stay up with me, and I'll figure out some way to keep you occupied.
John Carpenter's The Fog takes a different approach from his previous film, Halloween. The story sets up early in the film in the form of a campfire story told to children by an old wise man. But it actually creates the entire premise for the movie. The tale is the story about the founding of Antonio Bay and how the townsfolk coveted a treasure, so they set up a false signal that caused a shipwreck. They stole the gold from the shipwreck and actually constructed the town. And this is where the movie's story actually picks up, as we get plunged into the first night of strangeness many years in the future. A night where suddenly everything in the town bursts all over the place. Some of those bursts you can see visually, and some of it is discussed after the fact throughout the movie. The most important one is a dislodged stone in a church that reveals a journal explaining the real story behind the old wise tale. But also, in that first night, we see exactly what's wrong with the fog, as we see the first fisherman ship get attacked by the creatures in the fog. This is another horror film that is based on a supernatural thing, a boogeyman hiding inside this foggy menace. Carpenter builds a lot of tension throughout the movie and not using the killings themselves to build that tension. Although there are some killings in the movie itself, no blood is involved. In fact, if 1980s had the same today's rating system, it would probably be rated PG-13 and not the R rating that it got back then.
With my revulsion at the thought of a leper colony only a mile distant.
As opposed to his Michael Myers slasher type film, Carpenter's Fog really takes its time to give you information about why these things are happening. Throughout the film, via conversations between the different characters, you understand things that those individuals in the movie themselves cannot piece together. A sort of a puzzle that us as the audience can construct and know about, but our heroes do not until the absolute very end. With one tiny little exception, Father Malone. As soon as he finds the book and dives deeper into it, he knows what is to come and he knows what the solution is. I love the fact that there are subtle references to Hitchcock in this movie, and I believe it was done on purpose by Carpenter as a homage to the Godfather of horror. And what do I mean by that? Well, there are two really important ones. One is casting Janet Leigh, the woman who gets murdered in Psycho, as Mrs. Williams, for one, and the mention of Bodega Bay, the site for the movie The Birds. Another minor but major tidbit for this movie is putting the original Scream Queen and her daughter, the new Scream Queen. And what do I mean by that? Janet Leigh is not only Mrs. Williams and the girl who gets killed in Psycho, she's also the mother of Jamie Lee Curtis, who is in this movie as well. Not as the main lead, but a pretty significant character. The real frightening element for this movie does not come from the killers, those sailors, but the actual fog itself. So Carpenter mentions Bodega Bay, not only as a homage to Hitchcock, but also in a way harnessing the natural element in order to create his suspense. The fog itself is a visual aid to spot the menace, as if it was a flock of birds. The fog moves like the birds move, like a silent but deadly cloud. And of course, once it's engulfing you, it goes for the kill. Carpenter is a real master of using minimal tactics in order to ensure you believe his story. In this case, mostly using smoke machines, lighting, and camera work, and a great score that he composed himself, of course, to put you in the right mood for the action bits You might notice that there's a high pitch in the music as people are getting taken or murdered, and it invokes that high-pitched violin you hear in Psycho. As for recommendation, it is well worth a watch. It's not my favorite horror film, and it's not the best. It is definitely not my favorite Carpenter horror film, but it is absolutely great if you just want to put on a scary movie and just enjoy the thrill rides. I thank you for watching. If you happen to watch this movie not on the Halloween season, please check out my other movie reviews or our Saturday show, The Real McCoy Podcast, where we dive deeper into fantastic movies.